Hello and welcome, my fellow nerds, back to Nerd In, or if you're brand new here, thank you so much for stopping by. I am Christian, and I'll be your host for the evening here on Totally Bored, and tonight we're going to talk about how to get friends to play board games. How to get friends to play board games, not how to get friends. I can't help you there, sorry. Let's get into it. So yes, today we're going to talk about how to introduce your friends into the hobby, ones that have never really explored board games outside of Monopoly and Sorry and Clue and all those old classics. Maybe they've fiddled around with Catan or Ticket to Ride, but those aren't really modern nowadays, are they? They are starting to fall more into that classic territory where they still have their place. They're not quite what you're looking for nowadays. They still deliver a good experience, but you can do so much better. So today I want to talk about getting your friends into the hobby of more modern board games, more stuff that you're used to seeing in your day-to-day play groups. And the first tip that I recommend to you is know the person you're trying to get into the hobby. A lot of gamers early on don't really know what they're looking for in terms of board games, so starting with a theme that appeals to the person is honestly just really helpful. When I first started trying to get my wife into the hobby, I started with cats. Now this one I ended up getting very lucky with, but just having the cat theme was enough to draw her into this, and now this is probably her favorite game. It's just a nice little puzzly experience. It's nothing too complicated. But the theme drew her in right away, and when I was placing an order for another game, I asked her to look for one that she wanted, and of course the first thing she found was cats, and I said, yes, let's do it, because I know this is a way to get you to play board games. Appealing to the person and their interests was enough to get her started in the hobby. I'm still working on building her up more, but I know the starting ground that I have to work with, and that is finding an appropriate theme. Now, of course, finding a good theme doesn't mean you have to neglect the rest of the gaming experience. You still want to find one that's going to be easy enough for a person to learn, as well as fun enough to get them engaged. And this was the perfect one for my wife. But you can find other things. You can find silly things. If you have a friend that's just a big goof that just likes doing silly stuff, party games are a good way to go. Something like Wavelength, I think, would be fantastic. Which is why I have it here with me now. This is a 2+ player party game where you're just trying to know the other person. And this is a good way to also explore relationships and get more knowledge about the people that you're around, because it gets you into the way that they think. You get a scale from like basically 0 to 100, and it's going to randomly fall somewhere in that scale, so that a person has to give you a clue based on a prompt to tell you where that is. And just exploring that will allow you to explore the minds of the people around you, understand how they function, and give you a fun way to do it. Party games like this, I fully support. There are some that I'm not a big fan of. Stuff like Cards Against Humanity is kind of come and gone. It's worn itself out. Hues and Cues isn't bad. It does kind of do a similar thing to this, but not in the best way for someone that doesn't like colors like myself. But there are some people that really appeals to. So this is just a great experience all around for getting to know the people around you, also getting them into a game that's very thought-provoking, but also just interesting and fun. It's all around a blast, and you can never go wrong when the box turns into your board. You get to just literally slap your Wavelength up here, and then you have score trackers on the side. I mean, that in and of itself is already a huge appeal. It's just something really cool, something that a lot of people that aren't familiar with the hobby haven't really seen a whole lot of. So that novelty in and of itself can help as well. Or even, for example, to help get my wife in, I also went with dinosaurs. Now, I've found that unstable games are just fantastic for new players as well. Not all of them, but a good chunk of them. Happy Little Dinos is excellent for this. Here to Slay is excellent if you have people that maybe play D&D but haven't really delved into board games. I think Here to Slay is like the perfect way to introduce people. Happy Little Dinos is literally just War, the card game, but with a couple extra steps, and it's just really silly, it's really cheeky, the art is fun, the theme is fun, and if you have someone that likes dinosaurs, of course, it's a good time. So stuff like this I also recommend. You don't need to get anything super crazy or super out there. Something that's simple but has an approachable theme as well as approachable gameplay, especially with something that people might already be familiar with, like War. Like I said, this literally just implements the War mechanics and then adds on to it and innovates on it. So stuff like that is always a huge game changer for getting people into this. Remember, when you're introducing people to the hobby, you don't want to go big. You want to give them little baby steps to let them get a taste of what's there, and then you can work them up over time. Which is also where games like Sausage just becomes like perfect for situations like this. A little travel 2 to 4 player game, you can show that good games can come in small boxes as well. They don't need to be huge. You can get nice little experiences with stuff like this, as well as things like Deducto and Scout and Sea Salt and Paper. You can get fun little experiences in these little boxes that feel like a lot, but they're also so simple and easy to learn and deliver a ton of fun. So really, the first tip is just knowing the person, knowing what games to introduce them to, starting off small and simple, and then working your way up. So this is where I would say the very beginner levels are, is stuff like Happy Little Dinos and Sausage that don't take a whole lot to learn. Wavelength as well is super easy. Calico might be a little more of like a next step game, but you could also get away with introducing this to brand new people because it is a fairly simple concept. There's just a few things that you kind of have to remember as you're playing, which aren't even that bad either. It's a nice little simple game. Of course, Cascadia also falls under this. I personally prefer Calico over Cascadia, but some cases Cascadia might be a little simpler to newer players, especially with the simplified variants that the game offers. So there is that to it, but really, just start off with these smaller, lighter games with a theme that appeals to the person and is something that they're going to be able to learn easily. And if they play, other classic games, say they play like Dominoes or they play some form of card games, go off of that knowledge base to tune what you're delivering to them to give them the most impactful gaming experience that you can. Now, once your hook has been caught on this person with these basic entry-level games to get them started, now you really need to start reeling them in and start pumping it up just a little bit. Make their decisions a little crunchier, but still simple enough to understand and still approachable in theme. Because again, early on, new players don't know what they're looking for in games. They don't know what the types of experiences that they're looking for. They're just looking at all the pretty stuff and saying, wow, this looks really cool, and then getting a game alongside that to be able to enjoy. So deliver on that type of experience, and you still need to know your person for this, but after the first step, you can kind of start honing in and be like, okay, you like this one, so I also think you will like this one. For example, something like Calico, where you're placing out tiles to score points with different objectives. You can then move it up to something like Harmonies, where you're doing the same thing, putting out tiles to score points, but there's an extra layer with the animal cards because you're trying to score points with not only those, but also with your formations of your landscape tiles as well. And it's still a beautifully approachable theme. And look, it still has a cat on the box. It fits in perfectly. But it is just kind of that next step game where your decisions do get a little bit crunchier, but also it's still really easy to understand. Everything's still going to snap and float and just be really easy to get a grasp of and deliver a really fun time. So again, you're taking what you already know about this person, what you've already been introducing them to, and you're saying, hey, I think you're also going to enjoy this one. Or if you played something with them they didn't like, you can find something completely different. Say, okay, this type of game isn't your tune. We have so many options. Let's try something else and see if this fits your needs. So again, on that first step, if you do something like Calico and it doesn't quite work out for the person, they're not quite vibing with it, well, maybe you can switch off more to a card game and do something like Happy Little Dinos instead to get a feel for the vibe there. Remember, it's going to be a trial and error thing. You're not necessarily going to succeed on the first go. Be forgiving with the person. Be polite. Ask them if they want to play. If they reject you, just be gentle and say okay and just accept the rejection and try again at a later date. Don't push too hard because then it's going to push them away from the hobby and they're going to be left with a bad taste in their mouth. So be as kind and polite as possible when trying to introduce people to the games. It'll give them a little bit of a softer edge when being presented with new opportunities. So anyways, something like that, or even something like Patchwork, where your decisions aren't necessarily too crunchy, but it's a 2-player game, so it's a lot easier for you to be able to walk them through it and get things down with it, but it also just delivers a decent experience. It's a really cool setup, and you're getting to build your own quilt as you go. So this also would kind of tie into Calico a little bit, but with some different mechanisms so they can explore some different things. And I do appreciate Uwe for this, because this is probably the only Uwe Rosenberg game that I actually like and own. So, sorry to people that do like Uwe, it's just not my style of designer. But Patchwork, I think, delivers a very good experience, especially for newer players. It's another game that's really approachable, but does kind of give a little bit of that next step up vibe, because your choices are a little bit more in-depth than something basic like Wavelength or Happy Little Dinos. Even games like Canvas kind of fit perfectly in this category. You get a very approachable theme, everything is gorgeous, you get to make your own art piece, but you also get to introduce them into the realm of scoring mechanics, be able to pair different things together with symbols to be able to actually meet objectives and score points, while also just getting to make something beautiful or silly or fun, and it's just a really good time. I don't have any of the expansions for this, but the base game is so simple and easy to learn, and delivers a really good time. I mean, my mom played it for the first time recently with my dad, and he said that all she did was just making pretty art. She only got like 4 points the whole game, because all she got was 2 silver ribbons, I think, but, she still had a blast with this because it was just fun getting to make the art. Find games that are fun whether or not the player loses. That's another big thing. If people lose a lot very early on and they don't have a good experience leading up to that, they're not going to want to play those games again. So also when you're playing these, make sure you take it easy on the person and don't try so hard to win every time. Try out new strategies if it's a game you're already well versed in. And just do stuff that's off the wall, let them explore the game at their own pace, and don't try to just cream them like I have on a couple of occasions, unfortunately. Thank God it was against my dad, and he still loves the games anyways, but just don't do that. Be kind to your new players, let them explore the game, give them a fair chance to play it, and if it's something where it's like a player-activated endgame, delay the activation as much as you can. Let them delve into it and explore the mechanics of the game, because the whole point is supposed to be the journey. But if the journey is cut too short, they're just going to be thinking about the end point, and it's going to be miserable, and again, it's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. So be mindful of that. Of course, a new modern classic within the community is something like Wingspan. Personally, I would recommend Finspan for this kind of a spot, just because it is expected to be easier. It's got a lot more symbols in it to make it more streamlined and understandable, and just be an overall simpler game than Wingspan. This is like the middle of the road for the Span games. But if this is a game that you already have, you know it very well, it's easy for you to teach, this could be something as well to deliver to newer players, people that have already played a couple of games, and you're trying to get them that next step up. Because your decisions, while not super intense, they are going to matter and be relevant, but it also delivers this delightful experience of having all of these birds in your area, being able to explore the artwork, and of course, the whole index of birds that is within it. And having the dice tower is always fun for new players. They're gonna love stuff like that. So the novelty of this game is going to be quite nice. And if it's something you're already versed in, because so many people play this game all the time, this is a good option as well. Whereas personally, I do again recommend Finspan over this because it's supposed to be easier, but this is not a bad option either. And of course, another recommendation is something like Quacks of Quedlinburg, something that's just all based around luck and little decisions, but it still just delivers that slightly meatier experience that can just get players to the table more often, especially watching other people bust their potions around them while they're still carrying on, pushing their luck, and hitting those heights is just such an exciting feeling. A game with excitement like this is always a good experience for newer players. I guess not always. Some people prefer the more cozy style, and that is, again, something to just look out for. So the biggest tip I can offer this whole video is know your players, know who you're introducing games to, and know what they like. In terms of, again, just theme and maybe overall vibe. If they have more of a cozy vibe, aim for cozier games like Harmonies and Calico. If they have more of a competitive vibe, you can aim for things like Happy Little Dinosaurs, or even Quacks of Quedlinburg kind of falls into that category. Patchwork is also great for that. Or if you know somebody that just wants an explosive, fun experience that's just all all over the place, super chaotic. Stuff like Wavelength, stuff like Quacks is great for that. And there's a whole ton of games out there. These are just some of my recommendations for newer players, and then also people that have played like a couple of games that you've started to introduce to the hobby and you want to move them up a little higher. You can look at stuff like this. Don't be a goof like I was when I started introducing my dad into this. I started with games that were maybe just a little bit too heavy. Thankfully, he grabbed onto the hobby very well and is getting along quite nicely, but I definitely wish I had recognized the experiences that games like these deliver in getting new people into the hobby and understanding what modern board gaming is, instead of just things like Monopoly and Clue, which is the common conception around board games for people that aren't in the know. So deliver that new experience to them. Even if they don't end up liking the experience, at least they can come out the other side more knowledgeable, and you as well when it comes to trying to get new people into it. Again, don't get discouraged if people say no. Just accept that that's the case, and then maybe try again later when things are different, when you have a different situation, and maybe they'd be more acceptable of it. So anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. If you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button below. Let me know if there's any topics you want me to cover in the board gaming hobby. I've got a whole list of them already, but I always like to hear what you guys think, and if there's anything you think that I could explore really well, I would love to give it a shot. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We love having you here, and as always, enjoy your stay. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.